Hey there folks, Tim Slade here from the eLearning Designers Academy. In today's video, we're going to explore whether you should spend the time drafting a storyboard or just jump straight into rapid prototyping. So stick around. Whenever I'm talking to new e-learning designers and developers, I'm often asked whether or not it's worth the time and energy to draft an e-learning storyboard before you begin development. And honestly, it's a valid question. For some folks, it can seem like all of the time spent drafting and reviewing a storyboard with your stakeholders and subject matter experts is time wasted from actually building your e-learning course. And as a result, some folks prefer to skip the storyboard step altogether and just jump straight into development or rapid prototyping. Now, I'll say this right off the bat, that it's my preference to start with a storyboard before starting development of a prototype. However, this isn't a hard and fast rule. I do think there are some specific instances where you can skip a storyboard altogether and jump straight into development. So to start tackling this debate, let's first make a case for drafting a storyboard. Now, for those of you who have followed me for any amount of time, you know that I often like to compare an e-learning storyboard to a blueprint for a house. Similar to how a blueprint shows the layout of a house before construction begins, a storyboard provides a slide-by-slide outline of all of the content, graphics, and functionality of an e-learning course before development begins. And if you really think about it, this comparison also illustrates why drafting a storyboard is, in my opinion, such an important part of the whole e-learning development process. And what do I mean by that? Well, imagine you wanted to build a house and the architect didn't show you a blueprint before they began. How much would you have to trust that person to make sure the house met all of your needs and that they laid it out accordingly to what you wanted? Well, you'd have to trust them a heck of a lot. Imagine halfway through construction, you realize the placement of the kitchen is in the wrong location. How much work would it be to move that kitchen at that point? Well, it might mean rebuilding the whole house. And so the reason why architects draft or draw blueprints before they start construction on a house is that it allows them to validate that the house meets all of the requirements for the future homeowner. And if not, it's easy to make changes before a single nail is hammered into a piece of wood. I mean, it's literally just redrawing things on paper, right? And so the same concept can be applied to the design and development of an e-learning course. When I'm working with a client or a stakeholder and subject matter expert, it's my preference to start with a storyboard to make sure I've captured all of the required content, and of course to make sure it's all accurate before I begin development. And this is especially true when I'm creating a course that includes a lot of audio narration and interactivity. And of course, just like a blueprint for a house, if my stakeholders or subject matter experts have significant content changes, it's easy to update them in a storyboard rather than a fully developed course. All right, so that's why I prefer to start with a storyboard before I begin development. However, is there a case to be made for skipping the storyboard process altogether and just jumping straight into prototyping and development? Well, yeah, I think there are some instances where that makes sense. Ultimately, it comes down to the nature of the project you're working on, the content you're working with, what tools you're using to develop that course, and of course, your stakeholders and subject matter experts you're working with. For example, when I'm working on a text-based linear course where I won't be using any audio narration or including a lot of complex interactivity or branching scenarios, I think that's an ideal instance where you can skip a storyboard. A great example of this would be courses built in Rise. Since most courses built in Rise are linear and text-based and don't require a whole lot of development time, it really doesn't make sense to develop a storyboard before you begin development. You can just jump straight into it. Now, on the other hand, if I'm working on a custom e-learning course and say articulate storyline that is highly interactive and includes audio narration and a lot of animations and interactivity, while I might develop, some wireframe prototype, chances are I'm going to want to start with a storyboard before I jump into development. All right, so that's my take on drafting an e-learning storyboard versus rapid prototyping, which of course leads me to my question of the day. Do you prefer to start with a storyboard, or do you like to jump straight into development, or does it depend on the project? Share your thoughts by commenting below. Of course, I want to thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button below if you'd like to see more videos just like this one. And of course, if you'd like to learn more about growing your e-learning career and drafting storyboards and building prototypes, make sure to check out the eLearning Designers Academy at elearningacademy.io. My name is Tim Slade, and until next time, I'll see you around.